fastest possible route through it. There's looking like there's going to be some improvising in this.
Oh, indeed. And you'll see just in a minute here what we mean by all that. Alright, and Acmlm is off, and he's probably going to be making his way over to Kakariko.
And we'll get them synced up as soon as we have Zero Rush started here. Looks like he just did. Acmlm heading towards Lost Woods first, heading towards something that might lift his spirit.
We're not even 1 minute in the match.
Hey, you gotta take your chances when you got them. I mean, if you have the power to, carry a lot of these things, you gotta, get them off. Zero Rush certainly following suit immediately. The lift upgrade, the power glove, one of the most important items. Titan's Mitts in some scenarios not even necessary, but certainly gonna need the power glove just to traverse a lot of the open. I see puns are certainly in season at the moment.
Indeed. Acmlm is also going to give us our first look at the Kakariko well. Something sharp. I wonder why he grabbed those rupees.
Yeah, it's certainly not enough to get the bottle vendor on this pass through. You would think that you'd want 100 for that, so he certainly seems to be attempting to gather as much as he can. So something that you may notice if you're not familiar with spoiler log races is that our runners definitely know what they're looking for, so there's not a lot of unintentional item pickups. You may find that in certain dungeons later on in the race, they may not have necessarily invested as much time into those parts of the log with the 15 minutes they have, but for the most part, this is going to be as brief as it possibly.
Also, Zero Rush used information from the log to know that he needed to do a tier 2 tree pull for the bombs. That is information that is provided in the tournament logs. That's something you normally don't get.
And in the process, saving the bombs that, or saving the rupees that Acmlm had to spend to buy his.
It's a speed run now.
I feel like Zero Rush suddenly stopped living up to his name.
Is it like a one rush now? Oh, Acmlm is setting up a Houlihan.
For those of you who aren't familiar with the Chris Houlihan room, this is actually a reference to a Nintendo Power contest that was once won by a guy named Chris Houlihan. This is basically just a way for them to award a particular person in the community. That's just a debug room. Whenever the game doesn't know what to do with Link when he's leaving certain screen transitions, Sinak?
Yeah, I won't pretend to understand it completely, but it has to do with like your camera position in the overworld and where the game, like when you drop, like there's like memory values that dictate where you go, and if that doesn't line up, then it defaults to that room instead of crashing the game.
It's also a bit of a nice failsafe sometimes in certain glitch categories of the game if you need to get back to Link's house in a normal state, which is kind of interesting. Our runners, however, are definitely doing their best to move quickly. Zero Rush looking for all the mobility, going to pick up his flippers in the library.
I think. All right. Yeah. Now I find this really interesting that Acmlm is farming so many rupees. And Zero Rush is probably also going to set up a Houlihan here.
Seems to be exactly the case, although accidentally falls by getting a little too close to the edge there, and we'll actually have to try doing that setup twice. Or may continue on. Yeah, he's going to do try that again because he needs those rupees.
I mean, like, it looks like so far ACM's routing is really... We'll have to see how he routes in the flippers later.
Yeah, that's interesting between Zero Rush and Acmlm. Zero Rush did take the time to go pick up those flippers from the library before doing his rupee farming, and there may or may not be something... obviously, I think we're all pointed towards Zora at this point. We have almost 500 rupees, but there may be other opportunities to pick up items in the area that may benefit Zero Rush doing that all at once.
Oh, yeah, and chat brings up, yeah, this is the improvisation that we were talking about here. The rupee drops were really inconvenient in chests.
I feel like there's a natural joke opportunity here with Kane of Samaria and pulling people off stage, but I don't know. I'm only here till Thursday.
So
looks like we'll get a fake flipper from Acmlm here.
And he lost his water walk.
And being that it was a vanilla piece of heart on the ledge for Zora, we'll definitely not need his flippers for that water walk, although the waterfall cave seems to have been avoided, which is definitely something to consider. Maybe on purpose?
Oh, hammer on Zora, classic. Alright, Zero Rush also picking up his stuff out of Mini Moldorm Cave. It's about 71 rupees short right now.
We saw Acmlm enter this area of the world about 50 rupees shy of the 500 he's looking for, so Zero Rush may be counting on a couple of potential pickups here.
I think there might be rupees in... Yeah, probably an Ice Rod Cave. Or he's going to use this rupee room.
Honestly, growing up, I preferred the one in the desert.
Yeah, this one... Yeah, this one's, I think, a bit slower, but...
The nice thing, though, is that we're only about 30, 40 rupees shy, so this shouldn't take that long.
Alright. And the Acmlm picks up a book. More money.
That book is an interesting choice. Of course, we know that Desert Palace is a crystal, but that may be something that both of our runners are thinking about long-term, about which way they want to get into the desert.
I would put off raiding that hype cave, by the way.
Okay, so we will see Zero Rush enter the waterfall cave. This is another divergence between the two. Acmlm might get blocked in his progression if he forgets about that. No?
Nope.
That's a big no. Acmlm will be the first one into desert, certainly looking for something immediately. Zero Rush does save a little bit of time over Acmlm thanks to using the flippers to swim across that small gap there. Does a little bit less navigating on that screen, which is definitely a slow one.
I mean, we know those flippers will eventually be required. Acmlm isn't circumventing picking up the flippers. So he'll have to do it at some point and spend that time.
And maybe that might actually end up saving time net. I didn't really consider that. certainly a couple of times you're heading through the area, and if we have the mirror, that may chain in with, say, blacksmith or a couple of other things that are kind of in the neighborhood to begin with. So ACMLM may have more IQ in his decision making than I'm giving myself credit for.
It's true. There's something you can stare at yourself with.
Yeah, I mean, reflecting on that decision making, it's kind of interesting to pick up that mirror and not immediately mirror out when you're in desert. Like, that just feels as if it is like completely against every fiber in my being.
Welcome to spoiler races.
Certainly, another thing to remember is that runners do have to kind of unlearn some instincts that you have from certain menuing and certain progression, certain ways you handle, say, the end of dungeons or the end of segments. You kind of dip out a little bit faster than you normally would, and it can be kind of hard to remember that sometimes.
And sometimes it can feel weird, especially if you're playing blind races a lot. And all of a sudden now you're like skipping locations, and then you kind of thinking in the back of your head, wait, you're feeling drawn back to that area, but you know that you have a script that you need to stick to. It could be kind of it could be a difficult urge to push, and it takes some practice.
All things considered, at this point, not a whole lot different between the two runners about 12 minutes into the race. Besides the flippers, which we don't know yet if there's a routing or superior routing that ACMLM is trying to route that in with. Of course, this is actually something to remember, is that the runners can actually watch and listen to this restream. I don't know if either of them would. So we kind of try to not reveal too much about the spoiler and that particular levels, because we don't want to kind of give him advice and tell him what to do. ACMLM's showing us that he has the capacity to lift even further into this race. Hopefully he's going to do well with those Titans mitts. And he is out of there. Although that may be kind of expected, we don't have the fire rod to go further into the boss and slay the moth. Chat's asking if I like torturing chat with the puns. I like torturing Synac with the puns, to be honest with you. Zerorush cannonballing his way towards his mirror, gets out of there, has a opportunity to maybe go a different direction than ACMLM if he chooses, although the Dark World Village of Outcasts area certainly seems appealing. Something I want to just take a moment to shout out and appreciate in both of these runners is some of the execution skill that they put on display. ACMLM just a moment ago using a quick hop on a north-facing, or on a north-south-facing ledge. I get it all mixed up. On a north-facing ledge, which is normally not possible unless you do not very difficult, a somewhat more difficult input, but it requires knowledge, and these runners are really putting it on display in everything that they do. They're saving seconds and minutes that casual runners probably never have.
Yeah, and that time really adds up, especially in spoiler races where you don't get an opportunity to get super lucky about something. Like, since your opponent has the same information you do, and it's just a matter of how you apply it, like that, your execution becomes more important.
Including stuff like key dashes. Hellway, unfortunately, not a reality for ACMLM, and it's living up to its name today. RNG, not very friendly. Yes, Mentos Man. In fact, they are both pretty good at this game. But can they hover? Bear with us just a moment as we resynchronize the two runners. We're about 25 seconds apart. We'll see them pretty much side by side in a moment here. Zero Rush appears to be a little bit behind Acmlm getting into Thieves Town. He's going to have to do a fair amount of Village of Outcasts first.
Yeah, and now Zero Rush is going to get his half magic. It's a good call. Like, it's right there. It's pretty accessible.
You know, with that half magic, they have the capacity to be twice the mana that they ever were before.
No.
Yes.
Maybe.
All right. So-so. But furthermore, we have more items to consider. Acmlm absolutely dissing on that particular chest. Has a big key and has an opportunity to go further west, and we'll skip that as well.
I'm excited to see what the blind pun is going to be.
And today, the pod boss is sleeping Helma Snore. That's awesome. I'm so glad that you opened that, or you and the admin team opened that up to the community to make more of them. They're so good.
It's good to be the king. So yeah, blind's down. That's our first crystal. Yep.
And bottle.
It's a nice safety. I wonder if that's needed. We'll see in just a second.
Meanwhile, Zero Rush grabbing his hookshot as well and shining some light on the boss chamber. Not that much dungeon between the two of them. I think he made up a fair amount of time in his Village of Outcasts.
Yeah, Acmlm with the 1000 IQ play.
As it would appear, picking up his flippers and we'll either jump back into that portal or go on elsewhere. Or we'll save and quit. I stand corrected immediately. That's just how it goes, isn't it?
Yeah. You think they're going to do one thing, and then they outsmart you.
Well, looks like we're going to get another sequence break out of Acmlm. We do not have a lamp, and we do not have a flute, so doing the dark room for the desert ascent, not desert, the mountain ascent, is definitely out of logic. I see we're not the only ones who are fans of these puns. By the way, I wanted to ask you, Sinak, did we at any point get any confirmation on whether we can add some of these to the actual main randomizer website?
That is up to the main developers. I'll submit them, but that's up to them.
I am definitely crossing my fingers and praying to the Lamolus RNG gods that that'll happen. Some excellent ones coming up from this tournament. Alright, we get our first look at the Dark Death Mountain. Acmlm has successfully made it to the top with Hookshot heading over to the east, and we'll go to Super Bunny Cave here. Gets a successful clip. You had an interesting question in chat, and maybe you know this answer better than I do. I'm kind of guessing at it, but if I recall correctly, I think the whole reason we have blind puns in the first place is because there's a text box that was needed for the boss fight anyway.
That sounds right.
Certainly a feature of this randomizer, not a lot of text involved. The original Japanese 1.0 version that you patch from has quite a bit of it. Acmlm is going to pick up that Master Sword and a Blue Potion from Hookshot Cave, which are pretty nice upgrades.
Also, ACMLM was in the area. Paradox Cave had a 300 rupee drop. That was our most accessible one. And that was nowhere near logic. Like, yeah, they had to do all that farming. There was really no choice in the matter.
I think this is kind of interesting that Zero Rush is going up the left side of the mountain instead. Clearly saw this medallion, Bombos, which would get us into Turtle Rock Pendant. I'm wondering what that foreshadows for us.
Well, he has the equipment to enter TR.
But is that the destination? Chad immediately launching to bow accusations. I feel like that's not fair. Trinex did nothing wrong.
Oh, well, he's rejecting Turtle Rock, not even opening it.
For the crime of having a shell packed full of C4, I mean, come on. We did see ACMLM stop for a quick safety on his way through here in Swamp Palace, his next destination, picking up the magic powder. That may or may not say something about the magic bat, but it certainly is accessible, don't you think? Or at the very least, will provide us a lot of kind of backup safety as we go through some of the more difficult dungeons ahead.
Mm-hmm. I mean, powder's a... He picked up powder, right?
Yeah, powder is by far the best one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just that's usually free health unless you're on hard difficulty, which we're not playing in this tournament.
I think we may have discovered the reason Zero Rush wanted Bombos. I would laugh, though, if the real play was that you had to get Fire Rod somewhere else, and that would save so much time over Bombos cutscenes, that was actually the 300 IQ decision here.
I mean, yeah, I can see that. I mean, I've already seen a lot more divergence this race than I was actually expecting based on what I was seeing in the logs. So this is really cool.
Yeah, 100% agreed on that. I mean, it seemed pretty straightforward when we were studying it. I see Chad has decided to ridicule Zero Rush for the map pickup. Look, I mean, you just want to be sure that you know exactly where you're going. I mean, the map doesn't necessarily say the names of the locations, but... I mean, come on, I've done that in NMG. That is actually another nuance to spoiler log reading, is that some of the names are not necessarily familiar to the lay reader, you know, just as to what room is being referenced.
Yeah, it takes some practice to kind of memorize all that. There are guides out there. We have one linked in our Discord with kind of just a picture guide of all of the spoiler log locations, but when you're sitting here studying one of these for 15 minutes, you don't have time to reference that.
And even if you do, I mean, you know, you're sacrificing some other kind of information gathering to do so. We do have a question in chat about Who's in the lead? And that's kind of hard to say, as Sinek was just briefly mentioning a moment ago. You know, we haven't really seen a lot of divergence in this tournament as far as routing goes. We're seeing quite a bit of it here, and both of these runners took completely different routes. Being that we have Ice Palace and Swamp Palace, but they are pretty much dead heat otherwise, as best as I can tell.
Yeah, this is anybody's race at this moment. We're really not going to know until probably they've completed each other's dungeons, to be totally fair.
To Acmlm's credit, who is definitely deeper in a longer dungeon, already almost at Argus, and Zero Rush has actually got to go the long way through Ice Palace for something that he's here to pick up. Otherwise, I would consider Ice Palace to be an advantage over Swamp Palace in any other context.
Well, there's a big key for Ice Palace. There's only one good reason to pick that up.
Yeah, certainly after doing a bomb jump at that. In the meantime, Acmlm appeared to have been trying for a second there for a poke strat, but is just going to rely on good old standard one at a time slashes.
Well, there's our bow, folks. And Zero Rush is out of that dungeon.
Yeah, Bombos notwithstanding, we're not here for Cold Stare. A pretty good fight for Acmlm as well. Certainly healthy enough and not really looking to have any kind of problems finishing that up. We'll pick up his 20 rupees as a reward and be the second crystal that we pick up at all in this race. So we see Zero Rush heading towards Palace of Darkness, the first indicator of the next step in logical progression for him. Acmlm is actually heading back up to the mountain. I'm going to guess to get that Bombos.
So somebody brings up in chat, this would have been an awful seed in a different format. And yeah, if you had to play this blind, that pendant bow would have been really obnoxious to deal with.
Congratulations to Zero Rush for getting a fast Kiki cutscene. Also, being mentioned in chat by Barry Bonds that we went left side for Swamp on Acmlm's side, so maybe considering some potential rooms that would be difficult to do later on in the dark. Or that, I mean, that would be the first fire axis as well.
Fire rod could be buried somewhere. So Zero Rush is giving us our first look at Eastern Palace, and Acmlm is going to go after his bow.
So for those of you who thought we were going to Palace of Darkness, Zero Rush absolutely juked us on that one. Heading towards Eastern Palace, we are about halfway through at this point. With the bow, we get to avoid the entire back loop, which is really nice. Oof, that lag.
Alright, he found his key. Alright, and he's out of there.
You know, I consider 2 hearts of damage a success in that room.
I think there's like some setups to make it simpler, but yeah.
You're talking about Gifted with Greenies, right?
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't familiar, Gifted with Greenies is like the most ridiculous, absurd strat in NMG. And it would require us to have the boomerang, which we don't have.
Alright, there's our Quake medallion. That's along the way. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, particularly with the shortened version of the dungeon.
And that is crystal number 2 for Zero Rush.
That indeed. So, looking forward to things that we need in order to finish the race. Right now, we are still looking for the fire rod. Of course, they know where it is. Not to be too obvious about that, but we also need a flute, which we have not seen from either of our racers.
And there's our big key.
I'm somewhat curious at this point as to what kind of safeties and what kind of upgrades our runners may be considering going through the rest of this race. Master Sword, of course, is enough to finish the race with. There are 2 other swords out there, one of which is actually not that far out of the way. I'm kind of wondering if anybody's going to skip it, though, depending on when they finish that particular dungeon.
So so question in chat where the armor was. There was an armor upgrade in Swamp Palace. The other one we may not see. I don't think we're gonna see it.
Yeah, all things considered, our runners are doing pretty well with health. Being in Palace of Darkness, for example, this is kind of where you would be in the speedrun, traditionally. Acmlm finally going back to Waterfall Cave will pick up that Cane of Samaria, perhaps because we need it for Mire coming up ahead. That would imply, though, that we'd find the flute pretty soon, then.
There's a second key. Their big key, and Zero Rush is probably going to use this as a fast way back over. Oh, and one more thing.
You know, it's appropriate that he picks up that instrument in front of this big old crowd of groupies that have just tried to follow him into the next room. You know, he could have put a concert on for them, but shutting the door in their face works too.
I'd buy tickets for that. Oh, Acmlm having to farm money for Kiki. Was just a little bit short. Had to use the stun prize of 1 rupee to get enough rupees.
Gotta say, though, pretty fortunate that he had enough enemies to work with.
Oh, yeah.
Could have been a 300 IQ play. I mean, I don't know.
Hey, it worked out. Using that knowledge of the spoiler log can help you out, especially if that was like a 20 rupee. Then he could have like routed that in. I don't think he would have routed that in though.
Calculates it 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's like, all right. At the 33-minute mark before I go into pod, I'm gonna go farm for rupees off enemies using the stun prize of 1 rupee. And that's how I'm gonna get my Kiki money.
It could just be war flashbacks from days where tree rupee route doesn't work. Sometimes you just take that extra hit. Zero Rush doing a lot of dark exploration here in the basement of Palace of Darkness, about to come up on the Helmasaur King fight, and only a heart down, 2 hearts down, 3 hearts down. Should have a pretty straightforward, though maybe a little bit challenging fight now that I say that.
I just want to say that Zero Rush really navigated those dark turtles really well. Without the fire rod or lamp, that can be quite a hassle to deal with.
Yeah, he has exactly 4 more hearts than I would. Two more hearts. 7? Never mind. I'm gonna stop counting.
And there we go.
I'm kind of blown away by that. That was a really impressive sequence to be able to do that in the dark and then just smack Helmasaur King in the face with the hammer like that. Always nice to see people go for the bold hammer hits on the second phase. That's a pretty small window, and you gotta be pretty comfortable with reacting to Helmasaur King's movement. A nuance to the fight that a lot of people don't realize is that he can do all 3 of his attacks at once. Movement, Tail Swipe, and Fireball. So you gotta have really good reflexes. Well, I think at this point it's a little bit more clear as to the difference between the runners. Obviously, there is a 3 to 2 advantage in dungeon completion. And Zero Rush will be the first to activate the flute, which I think is honestly the clear indicator that he's in the lead. Although I wonder how much time Acmlm saving here, having his lamp in the basement.
Alright, so now Zero Rush is going to be heading to the mire area. And, there's something, a checkerboard cave.
And wow, have we taken a disparate path to get here.
And there's a fire rod. You can do it. We believe in you, Zero Rush.
Unfortunately, Zero Rush burning through some of his blocks here.
Alright, and Acmlm claims his crystal number 3. He'll probably be just working on Eastern Palace next. And then,
and that is a pretty quick crystal to get. It's so difficult to tell, like, which routing decisions are superior in this scenario because of how close they're keeping it in spite of things, but I mean, they've taken very different routes. Shoutouts to Zero Rush's key dashing.
It's immaculate. It's beautiful.
Gorgeous.
So, I think Zero Rush is going to be able to make some quick work of Landmo with that fire rod.
Yeah, he's got his extended mags mod on right now, so, you know, with that half magic, he can certainly fire away.
No!
I really feel those sword slashes. I certainly understand them. It's very frustrating when the RNG simply gives you a short hop and you have no choice.
Alright, that's crystal number 4. It's a fairly...
in that respect, a slight advantage.
Yeah. I mean, Desert was a fairly short dungeon because both of them had to dip into it earlier. So this is not going to be very long for Acmlm to grab.
I guess at this point, my curiosity is whether or not Zero Rush stops for Lamp at this point. I don't think he would where Acmlm did, and that's a pretty significant time chunk of Swamp Palace that Acmlm invested in that. Being that it was on the left side.
Yeah. And, like, the only thing that Lamp would be useful for now would be Mire, and Zero Rush is most certainly comfortable with Mire Dark Rooms. Especially if he goes to Swamp first and grabs that armor.
And we certainly haven't seen them take a lot of time to pick up extra health. I mean, 4 total hearts, and halfway through our crystals at this point. They're going to have some trouble if they don't pick up armor or health or any other kinds of safeties when it comes to Ganon. I mean, 1 hug to Green Link's 8 hearts. Maybe they just go perfect. I mean, they are pretty good at the game.
So even more, we're not gonna get any convergence anytime soon.
Yo, nice fire displacement though for Zero Rush. That splash damage actually murdering 2 Gibdos that were not that close from each other.
I think really the half magic has really been making things a lot simpler for our runners. Just having it right there at the brewery.
Yeah, and in this Mothula fight, certainly a lot scarier if you don't have it. Now, Zero Rush is just going to absolutely annihilate with just the Master Sword alone, which is pretty impressive. Got into some pretty handy positions as far as the top left corner goes. But otherwise, I mean, that would be a great safety for this fight.
Alright. Acmlm also claims his fire rod.
With that, I think we can also confirm that Trinex does not have any kind of progression for us today. Unfortunately, we're not going to need that Ice Rod. I know your fans out there were real disappointed to find that, but, you know, the usual thrill of a normal standard race, not quite applicable here.
In fact, I think both of our runners are like in item go mode. Are we missing anything? I think
we have everything strictly required.
Yep.
Ooh, okay. Chat pointing out something interesting that is genuinely interesting about Zero Rush's decision to pick up the big key here in Skull Woods. That's going to require some backtracking, but this is probably a pretty valuable item, wouldn't you think?
I would say so. I actually don't know what it is. We'll find out here in just a second. There's also... There you go.
Ah, so that was the point of coming back here.
Yeah.
He's going to decide to take that particular item and cut his way through the Lost Woods to get a lift to head towards Swamp Palace. Interesting chain of progression there.
I mean, I think this is going to work out for Zero Rush because, yeah, Argus is going to be a lot faster for him.
And the potential for a Zero Cycle, which would be really hype. In the meantime, Acmlm has a couple of options available. We could go to Misery Mire or do Skull Woods. We're in the neighborhood for Skull Woods, so that appears to be the next choice. And Acmlm has an opportunity to pick up his Tempered Sword as well, if he prefers. Kind of an interesting choice to make at this point in the race, given that there's only so many things that you're going to save time with. I think, though, that the time investment is clearly worth it just for Tempered Ganon, period.
I think Acmlm is probably going to be picking up that third sword because the fourth one is, I'll just say it's not very accessible.
Besides, that fourth sword is a way different game anyway.
Never actually played it.
You know, me neither. It always looked really good. And, you know, it's themed in the vein of, I guess, this game world. We need more things like Link to the Past. When are they going to confirm that remake? I don't even know if I want it to be remade.
I think we're fine.
Agreed on that. We certainly find more exciting ways and more fun ways to play this game every single year. I mean, look at this. We're doing a spoiler log tourney. Who would have thought this would have been a thing last year? Mothula time for Acmlm. Zero Rush still has a ways to go and did not pick up that lamp, of course, being that most of the use of it's already passed. But I guess that means we're committing to a dark mire.
Acmlm picks up his 6th crystal.
And moment of truth for Zero Rush to save some time, going to attempt the zero cycle, and it's actually a pretty great start to it. He has pulled it off, oh my goodness.
Now that was beautiful. And a 0 cycle on phase 2 as well.
Viewer discretion advised, absolute destruction.
That definitely saves Zero Rush time.
Get your pog champs out, folks. I mean, I'm not, you know, an officiate of the tournament or anything, but I mean, in my opinion, he kind of won the race on that one. Alright, he won my heart on that one.
Alright, I'll just say that Zero Rush and Acmlm are 10 seconds apart.
Holy mackerel.
This is a race, folks.
Yeah, just one, wow. Just one crystal for each of them, and they're both entering mire. As it was mentioned before, we do have a lamp difference, and Zero Rush is the 10 seconds ahead, so... I mean, that's a small margin to work with.
Yeah, Zero Rush also skipped the armor upgrade in Swamp Palace as well. So you also won't be having a whole lot of health to work with.
Ooh, that Mire 2, though, is almost immaculate, but unfortunately some rail physics. That's rough. Or maybe it was the BMO statue. Fortunately for Zero Rush, Acmlm did not have sword beams for that room.
Yeah, and I don't think that we have... I don't think we have any type of invulnerability item.
No, not at all. Don't let Zero Rush fool you, though. He could actually walk through those fire snakes as long as you're not touching the head of him. So another thing that's kind of curious to me is, I mean, I know Zero Rush is good at dark rooms, can probably handle the dark basement, no problems. Ooh, that is the wrong chest.
I think Zero Rush read the log wrong. Yeah, I think Acmlm has the beat on the right chest. That's not it either.
Oh no.
This is unfortunate. Alright, I guess that puts Acmlm in the lead. I don't think it's this one either, Zero Rush.
Well, that's a hefty advantage to cede to his opponent. The only saving grace that we have to consider is that, of course, they do have basically the exact same equipment. No heart differences either, so they ended up almost step in step. Even the rupee count is pretty close. So Zero Rush could potentially save some time, being that there is a lot of time save potential in segments like Ganon's Tower and the Ganon fight itself.
Alright, now Zero Rush has the correct chest. But since he burned his keys, he's gonna have to take like the long way around here.
Yeah, it is kind of polite of the developers to give you several different ways to get towards the basement. Yeah, Acmlm failing to get the spooky action glitch will instead have to bomb the wall. So there's a little bit of time save for Zero Rush if he had the lamp. We would have to see a spooky in the dark for him to save extra time here.
Alright, we'll have to see how Acmlm and Zero Rush handle Vitreous. With no invulnerability item, they're gonna have to rely on their bow, and Acmlm only has 5 arrows. We'll have to use some NMG strategy. That's not too bad.
Yeah, at a minimum, you have to take at least 4 hearts of damage to do it, but he pulls off a 0 cycle with it. Oh my goodness.
That was pretty awesome. And on Zero Rush's side, he's now dealing with a dark mire basement.
I really got to commend Acmlm's, aggression here, because you would typically have pretty much double the health, or maybe a heart or two less than that, if you're doing this under pretty similar equipment constraints in a speed run. That was really exceptional.
Zero Rush is past the difficult room right now, but all right. So everybody, get your guesses in chat. Where is the big key? Just give us a location. It's all for fun. There's no bot or anything.
You know, I have not looked to see where this particular big key is at, so I will throw out my own personal guess since I have no idea. It's gonna be tile room today. Why not?
Tile room. My go-to.
I have to presume that you've already looked.
Actually, I don't know either.
Oh, what's it gonna be?
I was gonna say tile room before you stole it from me, so I'm gonna go with vanilla ice Armos room. Vanilla big key chest.
Certainly seems like a possibility with the 22 potential locations. Zero Rush is going to escape his Vitreous fight intact, and we'll save a little bit of time on it from the arrow count that he had available to him. So excellent job from both of these runners. Probably the most difficult thing in this run. I mean, I haven't seen Ganon yet, but I would say this is a more difficult strat for the fight.
Alright, Zero Rush has now also claimed his 7th crystal, and he's going to be making his way up to Death Mountain. Acmlm is now working his way to GT. He's going to be cracking this guy open and heading inside.
Just a mountain climb between the two. Acmlm does not have any arrows. We'll need at least 4 to even consider climbing the tower, and if you have 8 or 10, that's probably more preferable. There are a couple of opportunities if you had to, say, go all the way to Ice Armos to pick up extra arrows along the way, but not a lot of easy opportunities if you have an early big key.
I don't think it's tile room today.
A man can dream.
Yeah, it'll happen eventually.
And hey, Bob can dream. He gets to live.
There's our blue cane.
That's interesting. I wonder if that was an intentional pickup.
I think it may have been. Same thing with the arrows and the keys.
Yeah, I was gonna say the arrows are a great pickup.
I think he had to come in this room anyway for some keys to probably move on. Though he can skip some chest locations and some keys. He's up to 5 now, back down to 4. All right, and Zero Rush is 1 minute 21 seconds behind.
That is a pretty sizable gap for a spoiler log race, although Ganon's Tower, pretty challenging for the gauntlet section, and of course, Ganon's not going to be an easy fight for either runner today.
Yeah, so should I go ahead and talk about the silver arrows and where those are at?
Yeah, I certainly think we've reached the point by now.
Yeah, so silver arrows were on Bumper Cave. And the cape is here in Ganon's Tower somewhere.
Of course, the implication being that we would not bother wasting that time.
Yeah. Which is also why then they really like push for that. Because like if silver arrows were along the way, they may not have spent the time on getting tempered sword.
Yeah, that's a very good point, as silvers are a massive time save for the Ganon fight, particularly when you are considering sword upgrades.
Oh boy, Ice Armos.
So yeah, that presents an interesting challenge for Acmlm. Can't really afford to waste any arrows here.
I swear I did not look at the log.
Wait, the arrows were vanilla too.
Those are vanilla arrows.
What?
That was pretty great. And I think Acmlm accidentally stopped his timer. Yeah, that's fine though.
You know, I feel like I understand that. He probably smashed his keyboard going, what? I mean, I would think I was in an NMG race right now. Well, okay, you wouldn't normally have blue armor, but whatever. You would never have blue armor, unless it's like... No, you just wouldn't. Not
even in Hundo. No?
Okay, maybe you would have it... Yeah.
No, you wouldn't. Not even
like,
in Hundo. It skipped in
No,
Hundo.
you just... You skip it because you only need the max, but... Ugh.
Yep.
All I'm saying is the game's playing tricks on us. Zero Rush vanquishing his Ice Arm was pretty well with an unfortunate bonk to finish it out, but should have a good arc variable, just like Acmlm when the Ganon fight comes around. He is not going to hang around for those arrows, because he has plenty. Yo, shout out to that snipe from Acmlm with a bow clearing Gauntlet 3, I believe it was, very quickly.
Oh, yes.
2 for 2.
This has been a very solid gauntlet for Acmlm. And it's going to be hard for Zero Rush to get time off of that.
Revenge of the Worms, unfortunately, going to get a second cycle landmolus too. Acmlm very low on health, but he does have the advantage of powder that Zero Rush just does not have at all.
Plus a red potion.
That's true, and I don't believe either of them used their blue yet, have they?
I don't think so. Acmlm did skip a fairy. But
Perks knowing the button beams. So interesting here, Zero Rush does not have any arrows and will not actually be able to do the same fast strats. We'll be skipping some arrows here because that was kind of the room he wanted the most for. I like that Acmlm decided to do lamp strats there so that he could just skip this magic completely.
Zero Rush is also defeated land mode 2. Acmlm is like, I know what's in these chests, I don't need it. Let's keep going.
Alright, a slash and a spin. Moldorm 2 is complete. Acmlm, of course, remembering that you cannot switch your menu item, or open the menu during a boss explosion, because, you know, we're cool guys. Or no, we're not cool guys, because we actually look at the explosions, right?
You got to give those 16-bit explosions all of the glory.
Like, cause I mean, what else would the budget be for, you know?
Was that a triple or a double?
I want to say that was probably too close, but it definitely all three of them would have hit.
Yeah, that was a double, a triple, and then you see a single right here. That was a very beautiful Aga 2.
Yeah, that pattern's nice, and I guess the only way that it would be possible to get that 2 cycle is if you stood a little further away and had a slightly longer delay. That might have.
Oh, Zero Rush,
pushed the
is he
frame
doing
rate.
it? Oh boy! This.
Crossing gaps.
Well, there you
That's-
go. It's like Zero Rush was having nothing of Moldworm 2 here.
You know, I really love that he was able to do that under pressure. I mean, he knows ACMLM is almost done, you know, so that is a time save. I mean, that's minimum 6 seconds, although ACMLM has slightly longer Moldworm 2 fight. I mean, yeah, that's every little bit that you can get.
So that was a double, a triple, and then he just needs a single right here, and he's good. On ACMLM side, he's low on health. Ooh! Oh, that is going to help Zero Rush. We have a race.
That will put him on the tower with maybe 5, maybe 10 seconds. No, it's a 15-second cutscene, about 15 to 20-second difference.
I think we're down to Ganon RNG. Because, like, RNG
Yeah, that's
pattern
true.
on
This is a
ACMLM.
refight.
Yeah. It's just gonna be
A missed for missed 1 cycle on the first phase. But that is a favorable pattern, though.
ACMLM. Be careful.
Oh man, but Zero Rush can't take any kind of damage.
Oh no!
Oh no! The perils of Green Link is just, I mean, it's hard to even compare. Normally you'd want to have a lot more health for this fight under any armor constraints. ACMLM not out of the woods yet either. About to enter phase 4 here, has to get his silverless hits, and unfortunately gets a blue Ganon.
Alright, that is number 1, 2, 3.
Zero Rush down to 1 heart left.
That's 6,
I think so.
8.
Yeah, 1 more triple here could do it. Okay, maybe we were 1 off.
Oh, and there we go.
ACMLM all but complete. Of course, we're going to consider the spoiler log time in the SRL, the SRL chat, but we'll finish in the first place with official time of 1. Oh gosh, I can't even do math in my head right now. 2:56.
All right. Yeah,
Minus
everybody. Sorry, go ahead.
I said -15 is hard, okay?
It is. All right, everybody, get your GGs in chat with Zero Rush. Soon afterwards, I'm sure ACML generally doesn't do interviews, but I'm guaranteeing you he'll be in chat here in just a second.
Wow,
And
what a
indeed, we do have Game 2 coming up, so we won't be doing official interviews because we are going to get set up for Game 2. But there we go. Zero Rush is also finished with an official SRL time of something.
I'm with it.
1 hour, 4 minutes, 14 seconds? No.
Yes. Wait, we just flipped roles from earlier in the race. I'm saying yes, you're saying no?
I think, maybe.
I need a pun for this moment. I'm sorry, I don't have one.
I don't know. You should just insert your dumb meme here.
Fair enough, fair enough. Also, some text that we've been adding in, replacing in some sections for the spoiler log tournament. Something I think is a fantastic idea. Thanks for that.
All right.
Well, that does give Acmlm the one game advantage in the series. Of course, as Sinak has mentioned, we do have the next race coming on after this. There will be a 15-minute spoiler log review period for the next race, and of course, we do need to keep this broadcast going until the end of the credits for verification reasons. So, if you are sticking around for the next race, and I encourage you to do so, in the interim, you should take an opportunity to follow these runners. These are two of the best players in the community, in my opinion. Certainly lots to see from them, and we appreciate them putting on the show for us.
Yeah, I'd also like to shout out our tracker Sammy Mus for game 1. You very much appreciate it, man. Our tracker crew, they've been there. They've been solid. They've really been helping me out. Really appreciate them. They're great people. Give our tracker a follow as well if you so choose. Anyway, I think we're going to get set up here for game 2. So yeah, it'll be about 15-20 minutes probably. But it'll be about 20 minutes probably before it shows up on stream because we have that study period. So I welcome everybody to enjoy the music, sit back, maybe go to the bathroom, get yourself a beer out of the fridge, or whatever your drink of choice is. And we will be back here very soon for game 2, which I'm certain will be just as awesome as game 1 was.
Yeah, if this game's any kind of indication, this was crazy. And of course, folks, if you haven't already, I'm sure most of you already have, but follow the Speed Gaming channels if you want to catch the rest of the tournament as we reach its conclusion. The next races on the schedule after this second race coming up, it looks like Monday, Kyong 92 versus Zach the Boker. They're going to do their back-to-back series at 8 p.m., and then the second one after, of course. Whoever wins that series will be facing off against the victor of this series. So lots of interesting things happening on this side of the bracket. All right, with that, I think we're about ready to sign off. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I've been Uday joined today by Sinak. Sinak, take us out of here.
Thanks everybody. Enjoy the next race, I guess.